Okay, so here we are again, just to put in some more of these. Oh look, a lovely harvest of a rock. Put in some more of these onions, and remember, I'm leaving about head of a trowel distance, about span of a hand distance between the rows, simply because I want to give plenty of space for the onions to grow, and I want to be able to get some secondary crop in between. Now the onions I'm putting in are Stuttgart Giants. Now you'll see some people are absolutely superb at growing the most gigantic onions you've ever seen. Now, it's not too hard to do that if you're brilliant. I'm not brilliant. I grow onions, I don't grow show onions. If you plant your onions from seeds, generally, ow, get that out of my finger. Generally, a seed planted onion will grow bigger than a set planted. Now, a set, you might remember, I pull this one out and let you have a look at it. See that little onion on the top? That's the set. You buy a bag of them, about 100 for a couple of quid. Now, they're an onion that was planted at seed to start with, and once it started to grow, they stopped it growing anymore. They stopped it off at the bulb size. Then they leave it to dry, and then you buy it later the next year, and you plant it, and it continues to grow on into a reasonable sized onion. Now, regardless of how much feed you give it or how much water you give it, it'll never grow as big as an onion that grew directly from seed that wasn't stopped halfway through. So, if you just want onions for the kitchen, buy sets. Much less worry, much easier to do. Now, same again, we're just going to plant square on with these, pop it in, bring the earth up, and it really is as easy as that, putting onions in. You've done the hard work, and that was getting out of the chair and putting your cup of tea down and coming out into the garden. I mean, that's the hardest bit, isn't it, really? Putting them in on a day like today is easy. Pop them in. They come out quite well, like that. It's got a nice little cell. I'm not even going to disturb the roots that's in there. I'm going to let them deal with themselves. But I am going to just pop them in, make sure they're nice and firm on one side, because then when I start pushing the soil over, I'll know they've got a good firm grip all round. And by putting them all in first and then just earthing them up all in second, I can see that everything looks okay. So I now let's pull it over, push it down, and as the rain comes in and as I water it, that will just help those roots to bed in a bit more. You see, it's not hard. It's not rocket science. Nature does all the work. You're just kind of playing with the outside bit, really. You know, nature does all the hard work. And we gardeners, I mean, don't get me wrong. When I use the term gardener for myself, I'm using it very loosely. To me, a gardener is somebody like Monty Don or Alan Titchmarsh, or, you know, somebody who actually knows what they're talking about, as opposed to me, who I would say more as a food grower. I'm very good at reading seed packets, and what's not written on a seed packet, my mate Google can help me out with if I want. But in the main, I just have a go, and if it works, it works, and if it doesn't, I call it experience. It's a Geordie bloke. I'm a great believer in the old adage, if it's not broken, don't fix it. And done is better than perfect. So again, we'll just get another one in there. And that'll fill this bed up quite nicely, you know. Bit of old mesh in there from what's underneath. The problem I've got in these beds is moles. It's not much of a problem since I put the net underneath, but beforehand it was a real problem. I had right trouble with it. So in a small bed like this, and this bed is roughly 2 metres by 1 metre, so that's in old money, that's 2 yards by a yard, just roughly. And the idea is to see just how much food I can actually get out of this. Now, if I was being clever, I'd probably put some sort of trellis up as well, and I'd grow some runner beans up the trellis, or climbing peas, something like that. But if I do that, I can't put the cover on the top, and I really want to do that. The bed next to me here, you can maybe just see, one that were built last week. I've got the Enviromesh on that already, and that's doing quite well. I say quite well, at the minute it's producing a really healthy crop of weeds. So that's for Stuttgart Giants in there. And now, as we did before with the carrots up there, I'm going to do the same here, but with beetroot. I love beetroot. One of the healthiest vegetables in the garden, you know, beetroot. It's full of antioxidants, full of vitamins and minerals. And as long as you get something like Bolt Hardy, you don't have too much of a trouble with the plant going to seed too quickly. You can pickle it, bottle it, cook it, eat it raw, grate it, chop it, do whatever you like with it really. It really is smashing stuff. And somewhere here, I should have a bag of molds. And I know that this one was actually out of date. Yes, plant before 2020. But you know, the way I look at it is seeds lie in the ground for years before they actually grow. So they can just as well lie inside this bag. Now, I don't know if you can make out the seeds on here or in there, you can see them at all. But each beetroot seed is a cluster of 3 or 4 beetroots. So when you put these in, remember you might get a cluster coming out. Now that again, that's not a problem in this bed, because I'm not trying to grow show beetroot. I'm trying to grow beetroot for the kitchen. So if I start coming up in clumps, which they probably will, knowing how I actually plant these things, again, just that pinch in again, you know. If I get too many, I just simply harvest them out a little bit sooner. They get used in the kitchen, and I leave some in to grow a little bit fatter. I'm going to do that bit again. So there we are, just planting them in by the pinchful. Now remember, you can't actually overplant these, because once they start to grow, if they're coming through and there's too many in one spot, you just start to thin them out and you eat them as lovely fresh young beetroot. Now the same as the carrots, simply cover them over. They only need a ½ an inch or so going over. And I normally just do it with the back of my hand. And then just knock it down. And if there's a couple of seeds still unsure, it's not a problem, really. You know, they'll just grow. Again, I like vegetables that are forgiving. But please, 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 remember to put your sticks in. Now, I know I'm going to have 3 beetroot in there, but just the same, I'm going to put a stick on each one, and I'm going to label each one as well, purely because I'll forget. I really will. So these are beetroot. As can be seen, and then the Bolt Hardy. So we'll pop them in there. I know where they are. Shortcut on here. Beat, beat, beat. And although these seeds are well out of date, which they are, I'll bet you a fiver that 80% of them will still grow. And if they don't, I'll invite you around for beetroot soup one night for dinner. So that's that for now. Going to give them a good drink now, and then leave them to it. Now I did want to say one other thing about onions before I go. Is I don't know if you can see this baby here. Let me see if I can pull it down, let you have a look. This is one of my favourite onions. I know you can see that now. No, they're not spring onions. What they are is, these are called Welsh onions. I don't know why they call them Welsh onions, I really don't. But what I do know is they grow a bit like a spring onion with a little bulb at the bottom, but every year they'll kind of double in size. I don't pick them, I cut them off. And if that's cut off a clump like that, they'll just grow more underneath. So a bin or two like this of these will last me right through the winter. And I use them in soups, stews, I chop them up and I put them in pastas and pestos. I shred them thinly and I put them into pastry when I make pizza bases. They're absolutely lovely. All they are is a green onion. You can eat them raw. You don't have to cook them. They're very tasty. And the younger you pick them, the sweeter they are. Now, every garden should have in a tub of these things. If you've got a little corner where nothing else grows, stick some of these Welsh onions in. Now, if you get a chance and somebody got a clump, see if you can do a bit of bartering and get yourself some of these. They really are invaluable perennial onion in your garden. You cannot get past one of these. There you go. Lecture for the day over. Hope you enjoyed that. Oh, just quite hot on that one. Catch you soon. Bye-bye.